writing is a technology.
Yeah.
There was a time before it.
We do always have the choice on how to wield the genie once
Yes.
it is out of the bottle.
Totally. I think he demonstrates a wonderful feature of sci-fi, not predicting the future, but reminding us how strange the present really is.
When you have to like put the book down and go, wow, I have to rethink some things.
Yeah, totally.
That to me is a magical moment.
Yes.
When a science fiction novel like pushes you to that point in your thinking.
Yeah.
And this did it for me.
Very successfully. Totally
Very
agree.
successfully.
Yeah.
Welcome to Science Fiction Book Club, a podcast for bookworms and stargazers. In every episode, we dive into the pages of our favorite science fiction novels to break down the big ideas, ask the nerdy questions, and maybe learn a little bit about ourselves along the way. My name's Abu, and as always, I'm joined in studio today by my lovely co-host, a man of the written word, Obssa.
Oh, thank you. Abu, you shouldn't have.
Obssa, we are here to continue our journey through Ted Chiang's excellent Exhalation short story collection. Now, of course, before we get into it, folks, a quick spoiler warning. We're talking about this short story in its entirety. So make sure that you have read this short story before you continue listening today.
That's right. And as always, we encourage you to read along with us and share your thoughts. So email us at sci-fi bookclubpod@loreparty.com and join our Patreon at patreon.com/sci-fi bookclubpod. We post free reading guides and discussion questions, bonus clips, bloopers, all that good stuff on that Patreon. And it's also where you can join our Discord, where we like to keep these nerdy sci-fi discussions going with fellow readers in our community, just like you.
That's right. And all of those links are in the show notes below. So check them out after you're done listening. Okay. Obssa, housekeeping out of the way. Here's the game plan for today's episode. It's the same as every other book club episode we do on the show. We will begin by summarizing the assigned reading. That's the short story for today. Then you and I, Obssa, will share our impressions and thoughts on the story, our first instincts. And then finally, later in the episode, we will wrap up by diving deep into our sci-fi analysis and picking apart some themes and big ideas.
That's right.
Which this book is chock full of.
That's right.
So before we get into all of that, folks, let's take a quick break. Don't go anywhere. When we come back, we're diving into this excellent short story by Ted Chiang.
All right. Welcome back, listeners. And as always, let's begin with a brief summary of the story for today. The story interweaves two parallel stories that explore memory, language, and the technologies we've developed and may someday develop for both. The first is a first-hand account by a middle-aged journalist in the near future who is reflecting on his relationship with his daughter Nicole, as well as a new assistive memory technology called ReMem.
Very Black Mirror coded.
Yes, definitely. In this future, millions of people wear continuous life logging cams, and with ReMem, can instantly retrieve any moment they've recorded. It's clear the journalist is wary about the use of ReMem in personal relationships, but grants that there may be some benefits in limited contexts like crime and law.
Now, the second story running in parallel in between this one is the historical account of Jijingi, who is a young Tiv boy in colonial Africa. A missionary named Mosby arrives at Jijingi's village, and we observe how their encounter transforms the young boy's understanding of not only himself, but his people and his culture and his society and how it differs from the Europeans like Mosby, especially when it concerns the concepts of time, language, and justice.
Yeah. Heavy stuff.
Heavy stuff.
Yeah.
Now, what's interesting about the Tiv at the time that Mosby arrives is they're a largely oral culture.
Right.
Their history, their laws are all carried through oral tradition. They do not write things down.
No.
Of course, the Europeans, Mosby and other missionaries that have come through these tribes, have begun to introduce the written word to Tiv land. Writing, records, reading. And this, of course, comes with some pretty huge side effects.
Right.
When you introduce a new technology to a culture.
That's right. We jump back to the perspective of the journalist where he's working on an article about ReMem. It's pretty evident that there are pros and cons of the technology for the couples he encounters, but he eventually decides to get firsthand experience and pieces together a partial life log for himself using footage from other people.
Mm.
He uses it to validate the memory he has of a pivotal memory in his relationship with his daughter Nicole, only to find that he'd completely rewritten the narrative to falsely cast himself as the victim
Wow.
rather than the perpetrator.
Ugh,
It's a
tough.
tough moment.
Tough moment for our guy.
Not one that you want to look at yourself in the mirror around.
Yeah.
Long story short, he's forced to confront this ugly truth about himself and the pain that he caused his daughter, and the experience challenges his original perspective on remem. He concludes that the limitations of organic memory result in us writing self-serving narratives, and that digital memory may draw us closer to a self-image that is perhaps closer to truth.
Yeah. Oh, I loved that. I
Yeah.
loved the arc that the journalist went on.
Totally. Yeah.
I also have some extreme privacy concerns about remem and live
Yes.
logging.
Yeah. Yeah. The fact that he was able to piece together, his
Through
own
other
life, through other
people's
people is,
like
is a little
just by
creepy.
being in the background of
Totally.
other people's life
Yeah.
logs.
Yeah.
Wild.
Yeah.
I want to know what permission level you need to be able to access that information.
Right.
Regardless, jumping back to Djingi's story, we slowly observe over these sections how becoming literate, being able to read and write, is affecting Djingi's relationship with the elders and even his peers in the community, boys his age. He eventually becomes the scribe of his tribe.
Right.
And a debate arises at one point about the genealogy of a certain ancestor. Who is the father of who? Who are we descendant from?
Totally.
And so Djingi sets out to find evidence, written evidence of this genealogy, and he does. But the elder explains that it doesn't matter what that piece of paper says. He explains to Djingi that the question was a matter of vo, this Tive concept of what is actually precise, versus mimi, which is the concept of what is right for the community. In the moment, the elder judges that it is mimi, right for the community, to be descendant from person A.
Yeah.
Even if the paper, what is factually correct, says they are descendant from person B.
Right.
And for the Tive people, there is truth and justice in both routes.
Right.
And this opens Djingi's eyes. He starts to realize that his studies and favoring written records over what he was raised in the Tive culture, is beginning to alienate him from his original values, from his community. And so he acknowledges, basically by the end of the story, that writing is valuable. It has sharpened his thinking. It's opened his worldview.
Right.
But in this conversation with the elder and in his realization about this dispute, he sees the negative sides of writing as well.
Totally.
The ways it can be restrictive or even harmful to a community.
The story concludes with the journalist admitting that the story of Djingi isn't factually accurate, but based on true events. And finally, he invites the reader to review his own life log and decide for ourselves whether he mischaracterized the story he's recounted or not.
Wow.
Yeah. Little meta there.
Little meta there. Love it. Love it so much.
Classic Chiang there.
All right. That's the summary. Obssa, what are your impressions of this story? What did you think?
Yeah. So this was a really interesting one for me. I mean, I think as usual, Chiang is doing something pretty clever here with the parallel structure, the two storylines that are in conversation with each other about memory and technology. And he kind of reminds us that writing is a technology.
Yeah.
There was a time before it, and
Wow,
we are kind of reminded to see it in this new lens again through the eyes of Djingi. I thought the remem storyline was particularly insightful.
Agreed.
And we're kind of rapidly in our own time developing kind of life logging technologies. I mean, they've been around. You can wear a mic or a camera, and obviously there are the Ray-Ban glasses that allow you to record, pretty much continuously.
Right. Cha-ching.
Yeah.
I just took a photo of you.
Yeah. And so there's something about it that's also really, I think, relevant to our time.
Yeah.
And just that exploration of what having suddenly, an entirely searchable archive of your life could have these profound psychological effects that we
Yes.
might not have predicted ahead of time. And so that I found to be, again, just really compelling, insightful, interesting. And then on the other hand, I had some mixed feelings about the Teve
Oh,
storyline.
okay. Do tell.
I liked it, I enjoyed it, and I thought the moments between Mosby and Jingy were really charming and funny. Uh, but on the other hand, it felt, I don't know, something about it felt a little contrived or
Mm-hmm.
a little too neat. Um, while I liked that distinction between Mimi and Vo, which really fascinating distinction,
Yeah.
I think what I'm not totally convinced by is how Jijingi's arc resolves. His kind of sudden pivot at the end, or sudden
Yes.
realization that he has kind of divorced himself or alienated himself from T values and wisdom. It just felt maybe a little too simplistic, or I don't know. I wanted more complexity there. I
Yeah.
wanted him to kind of wrestle with and grapple with those actual trade-offs
Yes.
in a kind of a more complete way.
It was a
Um,
little too clean.
it was a little too
One
clean.
conversation with the elder, and he was
Yeah.
like, "Oh, duh."
Yeah, exactly.
I understand that.
It
I get
kind of
that. Yeah.
concludes in like all of 3 sentences, And it's like, wait, what just happened,
Yeah. Yeah. That's fair.
So, I mean, that was kind of my only minor misgiving here, but that said, I mean, thematically, I think there's something genuinely important here about how our memories aren't just recordings of what we experience, they're constructed narratives about it,
Mm-hmm.
which
Mm-hmm.
I'll have more to say about in my deep dive. But yeah, overall, I think strong story, some really profound insights about memory, technology, self-deception. The
Yes.
structure is fun. And if the TV storyline had been a little bit more fully realized, I would probably have nothing negative to say about this
Yeah.
story.
Wow. Yeah.
But yeah, I'm curious. What did you think about it, Abu? What was your reaction to this one?
I adore this story.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
will say
totally,
I
totally.
love this story so
Yeah.
much, and for me, this is a contender for favorite story of this
Mm,
collection.
cool. Yeah.
Maybe I don't. I'm like I flip flop back and forth between Exhalation, the second story,
Yes.
and this one,
Yeah.
but it's up there.
Yeah.
I love this one
Yeah.
because for me, this was the kind of story that really made me stop
Mm,
and rethink everything I thought I knew about
right.
myself,
Yeah.
about people,
Yeah.
about the world.
Right.
And it's just so fun when sci-fi does that.
Yes.
When
Totally.
you have to like put the book down and go, wow,
Yeah.
I have to rethink some things.
Yeah. Totally.
That to me is a magical moment
Yes.
when a science fiction novel like pushes you to that point in your thinking.
Yeah.
And this did it for me.
Very successfully.
Very
Totally agree. Yeah.
successfully. I think when it comes to the two stories, I quite appreciated that I liked both of them equally.
Yeah.
From a narrative standpoint, I think that's difficult to do because when you do these like sort of double framed narratives,
Yeah.
often there is one that is just better than
Totally.
the other.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. You're just like, I just need to get back to the other
Right.
one. Yeah.
And
Yeah,
you're always
totally.
just waiting to flip back.
Totally.
It gives me like Mickey 7 vibes. If
Yeah,
you'll recall, we
that's
covered
funny.
Mickey
Yeah.
7, and the flashbacks in Mickey 7 are so much better than the
Right.
present day storyline.
Right.
And you're kind of just waiting to get back to the
Yeah.
flashbacks.
Yeah.
I didn't feel that at all.
Right.
When I was in Jijingi's sections, I was there and
Yeah,
invested. And
totally.
when I was back with a journalist, I was there and
Yes.
invested.
Yeah.
I wasn't just trying to flip through pages to get back.
No, totally.
And I also really appreciate that they really intertwine and complement each other.
Yes.
Almost immediately.
Yes.
You know, it doesn't take like halfway through the story for you
No.
to go, oh, these are connected.
No, yeah.
They're like connected from the first words.
Yes. 100%.
Which I think is very skillfully done.
Yes.
So I really appreciate
Totally
that.
agree there.
I think another aspect, we've mentioned this about Chiang before in this whole collection, but I appreciate the balanced approach to technology, whether that's the technology of writing in
Yeah.
Jijingi's time or the futuristic technology of remem
Yeah.
in the journalist's time.
Yeah.
Neither of them are portrayed as objectively bad and
Right.
harmful to the societies.
Yeah.
And in fact, both of our characters, Jijingi and the journalist, go through their own separate but similar journeys of reconciling what this technology means for them personally,
Yeah.
what it means for their relationships with people they love,
Yeah.
and what it could mean for their societies at large.
Yeah.
And I just really appreciated that approach.
Yeah.
This wasn't a warning against like, remem bad, don't do
Right,
this,
right.
or like writing was bad.
Right.
There were good things about both technologies.
Yes.
Ultimately, the message I take away from the short story, and maybe this is just because of the times we live in now,
Yeah.
but I think by the end of the story, both Chijingi and the journalist decide that how we use new technology that is introduced into our lives is perhaps more important than what the technology itself does.
Right.
Because the reality often is that there is no stopping the introduction of a new technology. Remem is out there. People are life logging.
Yeah.
There's no putting the genie back in the bottle.
No.
But we do always have the choice on how to wield the genie once it
Yes.
is out of the bottle.
Totally.
And that to me feels like a very, very timely message
Yes.
in an
Yes.
era of artificial intelligence.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So again, this is a story that spoke to me differently on this reread than it did a year ago on a reread, or than it did 5 years ago
Yeah.
when I first read it.
Right.
And that's what I greatly appreciate about Chiang's writing.
Totally. I mean, you take that and also just getting, in this case, two really good stories that
Yes!
you just want to kind of keep on flipping the pages through.
Yeah.
I mean, that's certainly one of Ted Chiang's greatest strengths. It's not just
Agreed.
Message; it's also content form. Really a master of his craft.
Yeah. The prose.
Yes.
It's just all so
Yes.
wonderful.
Yeah.
All right. So those are our impressions of this short story. Clearly, I think we both had a great time with it.
Yeah.
Let's take a quick break, folks. But stick around. Don't go anywhere, because when we come back, we are getting into our sci-fi analysis and breaking down some themes and ideas.
That's right.
We'll be back in a minute. Welcome back, folks. All right, let's continue, Obssa, our discussion of Truth of Feeling, Truth of Fact.
Yeah.
Wait, is that what this is called? Okay. What's the truth of this book's title? You dug deep into a really fascinating takeaway today. So lead us through it. Let's
Cool.
dig in.
Yeah, so for the deep dive today, I wanted to dig into something that's been kind of nagging me since we finished the story,
Mm-hmm.
which is this question of what it actually means when we talk about memory as a technology. Because I think that's part of the core insight that Chiang is working with here, and it's pretty profound when you sit with it. So let's jump into that.
Let's do it.
We tend to think of memory as just this natural biological function like breathing and digestion and the beating of our hearts. But what Chang, I think, is arguing over the course of this story is that memory has always been technologically mediated. Even in purely oral cultures, there are technologies of memory, mnemonic devices, ritual repetitions, so on and so forth. But then writing comes along and it fundamentally changes what memory is.
Right.
Through Chijingi's eyes, we get to see writing as strange in a way that literate people can't anymore. This is kind of what you were saying as well.
Yeah.
The idea that marks on paper can preserve speech across time, that is weird.
Wild. That's
That
black
is
magic.
a strange idea. And of course, we're just kind of blind to that. We're inundated with
Right.
words. We swim in a sea of words at all times.
Mm-hmm.
And what Mosby tells him, I think, is really crucial. You can grasp your thoughts like bricks in your hands and push them into different arrangements. Writing doesn't just record thinking, it changes thinking.
Yes.
And so when we jump into the Remem storyline, what we're seeing is the next phase transition. Just as writing transformed oral memory into literate memory, digital life logging is transforming organic memory, which is still pretty flexible and revisable, into this externalized, searchable, verifiable archive.
Yeah. Ooh.
Which is, it is something to grapple with because
It is.
it's happening to us right now in real time. And the narrator is experiencing that transformation the same way that Chijingi experienced writing. Simultaneously powerful, but also deeply threatening.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The narrator initially resists remem because normally when someone offends you, the memory gradually softens over time.
Right.
And that softening is what makes forgiveness possible. And I think that's a legitimate concern.
I agree.
there is a kind of mercy in organic forgetting, forgive and forget.
Yeah. Time heals all wounds.
Precisely. Unless you're
Unless
recording
it's
all the
searchable,
right?
Remember that time Obssa said that one mean thing to me? Can you pull up that clip for me real quick?
Exactly. There is, of course, for those that have seen the episode, there is an episode of Black Mirror where this is absolutely played upon, and you can see how dystopian it can be.
Yes.
What's interesting, though, of course, is that when the narrator actually uses remem, the problem isn't that it preserves others' offenses against him. The problem is that it reveals his offenses against others.
Yeah.
This entire redemptive narrative about becoming a better father, fiction. Memory isn't just imperfect in some random way. We're unreliable narrators of our own lives.
Right.
Unconsciously, we revise our worst behavior to maintain our self-image as a basically good person.
Yep.
And that is exactly what we saw with a journalist narrator. In his head, he, of course, had done a noble thing in reconciling with his daughter.
Yeah.
Which, of course, was not in fact the case.
Not at all.
So it's interesting. Digital memory clearly doesn't necessarily introduce a new problem in that regard. It reveals a problem that was there, but comfortably invisible.
Yeah.
And both storylines are about what happens when a new memory technology renders previously invisible constructions visible. Writing lets Jujingi see that oral tradition isn't just preserving the past, it's actively constructing it. And digital memory lets the narrator see that organic memory is also actively revising events.
Yeah.
In both cases, the new technology changes your relationship with the past and, of course, the present.
That's right.
I think Chiang's answer is that the question isn't whether to use mediation. We don't have a choice.
Yeah, it's here.
It's here. And to the point you made earlier, the question is what choices we make under those conditions.
Yeah.
How do we adapt and adopt to these new technologies and remain aware of their effects? The narrator can't escape mediation, neither can we, but in his case, he can grant access to his life log. In this way, transparency replaces what is kind of impossible, which is objectivity about what happens.
Yeah, true.
And I think the argument seems to be that digital memory, this is like the nuance, of course, in how Ted Chiang plays out the story. It's not that it will give us capital T truth, but it might have some other ethical or social value. As the narrator says, the point is not to prove you were right. The point is to admit you were wrong.
Yeah.
If perfect recall prevents us from unconsciously rewriting our worst behavior, we might develop genuine humility because it makes our subjectivity more accountable. So I think my takeaway is this. Chiang is showing us that every new memory technology doesn't just change how much we remember, it changes what memory is.
Yes.
And in that way, I think he demonstrates a wonderful feature of sci-fi, not predicting the future, but reminding us how strange the present really is. And it also helps us to see the technologies we're adopting are choices with real consequences.
Yeah.
I think there's something both terrifying and hopeful here. Terrifying because it reveals how little we can trust ourselves. It's a little tough.
Yep.
But hopeful because the narrator does change. I don't know, maybe perfect recall will improve our humanity by making our subjective storytelling more transparent.
Yeah.
But it's also possible that's another self-serving narrative we can tell ourselves in our unrelenting quest to build ever more technology.
Yeah.
I honestly don't know. But I think Chiang makes the case in this story that uncertainty is perhaps the right place to end up.
Yeah. That's so true. Beautifully said, Obssa. And the cynic in me thinks not everyone will react to something like Remem like the journalist.
Right.
The journalist turned inward,
Yeah.
right? Reflective.
Right.
I did something wrong. I need to apologize to my daughter. What else have I done wrong? Let me work on myself.
Right.
I think reflective is the ideal outcome of a technology like this and how it changes our relationship with the past and present.
Right.
I think the other side of the coin is defensive.
Yeah.
And to react in a way where you reject what the Remem technology is revealing to you. the journalist could have been like, oh, well, maybe I said that, but like, I didn't mean it, Nicole. Like, I
Right.
never meant it. Like,
Right.
what? This is ridiculous.
Right.
We don't need to blow this out of proportion. I
Right.
never meant any
Totally.
of that.
Totally.
It's whatever.
Totally.
Let's just get over it.
Yeah.
Like, there is a defensiveness that could have been
Absolutely.
a pretty natural reaction.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
think we all know people who would react in that way
Oh, yeah.
when presented with their own flaws
Yeah.
in such glaring fashion.
Oh, yeah. I think sometimes we are all that person.
We are
Yeah.
all that person.
Yeah.
And so, yes, I think the outcomes we're seeing here, the way Chiang has taken these stories with Chichingi and with the narrator, like you said, are incredibly hopeful.
Yeah.
And the way you would want technology to be integrated into our memories and to evolve. But I think there would be bumps along the way
Totally.
where we would see some downfalls. I mean,
Right.
we saw it in the example from the journalist with the couple
Yes.
who's constantly arguing.
Yeah.
And now they have the ability to go back and replay old
Right.
arguments to win
Right.
whatever current argument they're having.
Yes. It turns up
That's
relationship
a horribly
into...
toxic
Yeah, totally.
like way to manage a relationship
Yeah.
because so much of relationships with friends, family, colleagues is like based on forgive and forget.
Totally. Yeah.
A lot of it.
Yes. The give and the take.
And the inability to ever forget makes you wonder how much forgiveness is involved in relationships. And so I love that there's this wonderfully nuanced conversation to be had
Yes.
about Remem. The journalist's reaction to it is beautiful,
Yeah.
and we would all hope that we react in this way.
Totally.
I do think there's an untold story here where someone else reacts in a very defensive way,
Right.
in which they refuse to realize something about themselves and instead start pointing fingers at other people.
Totally. And not to speak of, any other side effects that we can't predict, you know.
That's true.
Once you
too.
produce something, I mean, humans are naturally attuned to trying to game the things that are available, like the systems that are
Yes.
available.
Yes.
So you can imagine ways that perhaps bad actors might, let's far-fetched example, but, go into a VR space and, pretend that some scenario is playing out and it is being recorded. It looks plausibly real. So,
oh my gosh.
I mean, there are all these scenarios that are hard to predict, but
yeah.
that is what we do. We find ways to bend technology to suit our will. And
Yeah.
not everybody, of course, has quite as optimistic or hopeful an attitude as the narrator or perhaps Ted Chiang.
Yeah. And this is sort of off the beaten path. The story is not about crime.
Yeah.
But I imagine Remem would be a boon to the criminal world.
That's what I imagine. Like there has to
if
be...
I can access memories of myself through everyone else's life logs, couldn't I like reconstruct how to, this is a random example, but break into the Louvre and steal some gems?
Right.
By like reconstructing other people's life logs and
yeah.
realizing what the like exits and security paths are to the Louvre or whatever.
Totally.
Like I think obviously the story is not tackling that sort of question with Remem.
Totally.
And so, this is just sort of like a random Abu thought that kept coming to me reading and rereading this story where I was like, oh my God. There are other scary things about
100%.
Remem that have nothing to do with memory.
Yes, totally. I mean, it's like suddenly like you're in a commercial surveillance state, where it's like, lots of scary, things that happen.
A little bit beside the point.
Totally.
Couldn't help but think of that just,
of course,
as a big sci-fi fan. And,
totally. Yeah.
It gives a little bit of Minority Report-ish vibes.
Right.
Yeah.
Preventing future crimes. Yeah.
Great takeaway, Obssa.
Yeah,
Thank you for breaking that down for us. All right, folks. That does it for today's episode about another excellent short story by Ted Chiang. Of course, we still have a few more short stories to go in this collection. So here's your homework, folks. For the next episode, make sure you've read the next short story in this collection. This one is titled The Great Silence. It's a pretty short one, but I think there's a lot to dissect in it.
Totally.
So make sure you do your homework. And as always, if you're wondering, hey, what are the assignments? When do I have to have them read by? Check out the link in the show notes below. We have the entire schedule for the entire season ahead of us.
That's right.
Of every book, every chapter, every due date. So check that out and read along with us.
That's right. Well, friends, remember, we are but humble sci-fi missionaries. That means all we do is podcast about sci-fi.
Truth.
We have no authority to punish you.
Well, maybe a little bit.
Maybe a little. But if you leave us a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, you may help us spread the gospel to others.
Amen.
And be sure to check out the other shows on the Lore Party Podcast Network on loreparty.com. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram at lore_party. Thank you so much for listening, and remember that remembering is storytelling.
It is indeed. I'm remembering things right now.
Making up some stories? Making up some stories about me?
Just a few.